So ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for our next speaker, Mr. Rotimi Ogunyemi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Indeed, I must thank the team at Oando Legal for this opportunity, and to every one of you for being here, my dear students. I'm not going to try to do the university thing yet, but maybe down the line you get to know. What I want to do first is to appreciate all of the preceding speakers, my sister Stella, Aderele, you guys, ladies, have been phenomenal, and I would build on some of the things you have said. And of course, the MD of Oando had prompted the things I want to talk about. Yes, I have my slides, but over time I've learned to ignore my slides. But today I will not, because I also want to be as practical as possible in this presentation. The overall theme for today is the 21st century lawyer, keys to building a successful legal career. But I am going to be speaking more about the future of legal practice, working smarter with AI-powered tools. I must say that all of the objectives of this session is as curated by, let me just say, the legal department, right? So while I am a technology lawyer, I'm actually not going to speak to us this afternoon as a technology lawyer, because I'm going to be speaking about legal technology. One of the first things, I know I've confused you, but I would explain. One of the first things I want all of you, all young folks, to understand is there's this fine line between tech law and legal tech. So I'm a tech lawyer, but I want to talk about legal tech, all right? Are we together? Okay. And the particular technology that I will be laser focused on is artificial intelligence. I'm going to explain what artificial intelligence is in ABC terms, what generative AI is in ABC terms, what large language models are, and then I will unpack how these tools are already reshaping legal practice, and then how these tools can be used responsibly, ethically, and with the right guardrails. And finally, I will be speaking to how you as law students, or perhaps younger lawyers in the room, can build AI fluency or AI literacy. So my slides can begin to move, but at this point, let me break down these concepts: AI, Gen AI, LLM, reasoning models, copilots, agents. So remember as I talk that I'm a lawyer, all right? If I go technical, I would explain that down the line. In the year 1950 or thereabouts, 1950, you heard me right, was when the concept of artificial intelligence first came on board. But at that time, it was like a pariah. It was an area of research in computer science that most people did not want to touch because it didn't seem to have a future. But some researchers continued down that line. And then sometime in the year 2017, there was a breakthrough. The breakthrough was championed by research work that happened in Google. We all know Google, right? And at the base of that research work was a technology called transformers, not the cartoon, right? Transformers, right? And just trying to explain further that, because later I would reference ChatGPT, even though I won't stay there, right? That the T in ChatGPT is transformers, all right? But I'll come back to all of that. Now, that technology did something. It changed the dynamics of computing. Computing before 2017, when transformers came to light, was rule-based. That means you program the systems to do specific things. At the heart of transformers, or what we now call artificial intelligence, is that computers can now go beyond rules and carry out functions that before now has been kind of limited to human cognition or human intelligence. I would explain. When you say someone is intelligent, what do you mean? Or someone, when you refer to human intelligence, what do you mean typically? Because I want to rush. It means you can learn, you can think, you can do what else? You can reason, right? You can observe patterns and then predict what's going to happen next. That's what it means when you say someone is intelligent, right? And so that's what artificial intelligence is. This computing paradigm where the computer simulates human cognition and can now begin to learn by pattern recognition, predict what's going to happen next, and think. However, in the year 2022-ish, thereabout, there was now a subset of this artificial intelligence that came to light called generative AI. The difference, now, since 1950, the year 2000, and all the way down the line, a paradigm of artificial intelligence had been with us. And so your Google Maps was driven by machine learning, right? Machine learning is pattern recognition. Okay, let me break it down further for the least familiar. Now, I realize that I'm speaking to Gen Zs. Is there any Gen Alpha here? No. I'm speaking to Gen Zs, but I know at the back we have Gen Xers, we have millennials, and the likes. So when I say I want to break it down, I'm not breaking it down for you, the students. I'm breaking it down for the people at the back. All right. Now, when we say computers can think, computers can go beyond that. They can see, right? So artificial intelligence it's at least 3 technologies. One of it is machine learning. It can recognize patterns. One of it is computer vision. It can see, right? One of it is it can now, so as of today, it can now act. It can plan, right? That's agents. I'm saying many things. I'm going to break it all down. Remember, I'm a lawyer. Good. Because we are going to bring it back there with contracts and everything. But I need us to understand these fundamentals and these basics. All right, so 2022, we had this thing called generative AI, right? So that is beyond the AI I mentioned. This is computers or artificial intelligence that can create new things like language, like text, right? Like images, like video, okay? But not just that, like contract clauses, right? What else do you do in law? Talk to me, anybody. Just like drafting, right? So generative AI, remember I started by saying it can create new content. And how does it create new content? It creates new content by learning patterns from what it has seen and ingested, right? So it can predict what something else could look like just based on what it had learned, right? So that's generative AI. All of this is based on large language models. So the reason why a generative AI can create new content like a new contract clause is because large language models now. This model has been trained on perhaps all available contract clauses ever, right? So it stands to reason that that model can predict what a new contract clause could look like, right? Now, so, but it's not just that the large language models is trained on contract clauses. It's trained on all of human corpus. That means everything ever written by humans, everywhere, right, is what the large language has been trained on. And then the ones that are specific to law are now fine-tuned, I'm using a technical language, further trained to speak legalese. Now, imagine we can go further. It can be further trained to speak the legalese that is only spoken here in Oando, right? That means it can be further trained to read through every single and last legal document that has been written by this department, right? And then it can redraft and write something that you will think that it was the chief legal officer that wrote it, even though she didn't write it. Why? The computer has learned every last thing you have written and can now write on your behalf, perhaps better than you. Now, I need to lay all of this foundation. As at the year 2024, there was now the reasoning models. Now, let me use models that you know. But everything I'm going to say now, I'm going to balance it down the line. So a model you know is ChatGPT, or a model you know is Gemini, right? By the year 2024, you would notice that there had been a movement from GPT 3 to 3.5, right? And then moved to GPT 4, right? What happened, for those who are not discerning, is that the models moved from just generating, spitting out text, to now models that can reason. What does it mean to reason? Behind the scene, when you ask a question, the model generates about 10 different answers. You are not seeing it. The model stops and looks at the whole 10 and says, of these 10, which one is best? And presents that one to you. That's the one you see on your screen, right? So that's a reasoning model. Now, that reasoning model has become GPT-5 now, right? And what does that trigger? That triggers agentic AI. What that means is, remember I said generative AI, it can create new things. And it can do it in multimodal ways. That means it can see. When I say it can see, if you use your phone camera and you take a picture, you can ask the model a question based on that picture, right? You can even have your live camera and you could ask a question, right? That's what I mean by it can see. Back to GPT-5. Now, it cannot just reason, it can act on your behalf. The model can plan now. It can take multi-step actions. Let's make a very easy one. I want to go on vacation, right? I don't know anywhere in that place. Help me, right? And you ask the model, do all of this for me. You know, the model will say, okay, give me 10 minutes. The model goes off and the model comes back and gives you everything you want. I know that all the students here know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure about the back, right? Now let's move. I needed to lay that foundation, then I come back to law. Law has come a long way, as we have heard earlier on in the room. From typewriters to paper law reports to online research databases. Those are your LexisNexis, your Westlaw. I deliberately didn't put the Nigerian brand names, but you know them. Law Pavilion, Legalpedia, right? Now, all of these tools has been with us for a number of years, right? Now, all of those tools pretty much are what I would call, they were all rule-based tools. So if you wanted to search for a case in Law Pavilion, you do a keyword search, right? And then it churns out indemnity, for instance. It churns out all the cases in its databases, right? And then you do whatever you want to do with it. E-discovery, we've been using all of those automation tools forever. And maybe even the bigger law firms have some more precise tools that they've been using forever. But what changed with Gen AI? What changed with reasoning models? What changed? So I'm moving again to speak to that part of the presentation that borders on how does AI, or how is AI currently impacting practice, right? And this is at the heart of my talk, which is working smarter as opposed to working harder. Under the working harder, these are all the things my sister Stella spoke about. You are going to read hundreds of pages line by line, whether you like it or you like it. You are going to do grunt work, right? And that's hard work. And you are going to stay in that office if there's a deal for 5 days. You won't go home. Where are you going to, right? However, this is 2025, guys. The world has changed. Working smarter with AI. I mentioned 2 technologies that drive AI. I didn't mention the third one. The third one is the first one there. It's actually natural language processing. All right. I mentioned computer vision, right? And I mentioned machine learning. These are all technologies that make up this thing we call AI. That one called natural language processing is now what powers all the tools that we have been using forever, like Law Pavilion. You remember I said before now, it used to be keyword search. Now it is natural language. Let me explain. I didn't put the clause in there, but let me read out a clause and tell me whether I'm cheating or not. So later on, I'm going to tell you the kind of models to use, all right, and how to work with the models responsibly. And then much, much later, I'm going to speak to you as students who may not have access to high-end models, but I mean, even if your professors say don't use these tools, I know you will use them. So imagine you are asked to draft a non-disclosure agreement. So that's one of the easiest agreements you'll come across. And I deliberately chose it because it's perhaps one of the agreements that we in the tech space, it's one of the first agreements we tend to draft, right? But it's applicable practically everywhere, non-disclosure agreement. So that's what you want to draft. And the scenario is for a potential technology collaboration. Now, you can instruct a model like this. Just listen to me. Draft a mutual non-disclosure agreement between a Nigerian energy company and a European technology provider with Nigerian law as governing law, a 3-year confidentiality period, standard exclusions, and carve-outs for regulatory disclosures. That's a prompt. All right? What do you think the model will churn out? Anybody? I mean, when I ask this question, I'm asking it from the standpoint of more like, do you think a model will churn out a usable document that CLO can take to MD? All right, I'm liking your responses. You see, the short answer is yes. I promise you, the model will churn out a decent draft. Remember when Stella was talking about first-year associate or trainee associate, one of the first things you do is you do drafts, right? And the partners or the seniors rely on those drafts. This is the bad news. The seniors like me, who know the right tools to use, don't need a first-year associate to do a first draft. Let that sink in. That's the bad news. I'm going to tell you the good news. All right? You see, the good news is that the senior like me is 1 out of 5,000. So that means the junior who knows the right tools and knowing how to deploy the tools in a privacy-preserving, you know you have a duty of confidentiality. I'm going to speak to that later, right? who knows how to deploy the right tools, will churn out. When Stella was floating her guy, I wanted to ask him that, which tool do you use? You are going to mesmerize your bosses, but I go ahead of myself. So it's going to turn out a sensible first draft. And even in a more complex scenario, like, say, a joint venture, an M&A deal, right? Someone wants me to read out the prompt. But really and truly, what are the things you will be considering if you wanted to do a first draft of a joint venture? You'll be looking at things like equity splits, reserved matters, board composition, dispute resolution, governing law, regulatory compliance, local content, requirements if it was an energy situation. Truth is, the AI can generate a complete draft following whatever pattern that you give, right? So, having said that, the real value that you then bring as a lawyer is not accepting any such draft blindly, but doing what? Examining that draft with a critical eye, right? And bringing commercial sensibilities to that draft. So one of the first things that has changed is that regardless of where you are, the 21st century lawyer is now moving from being the teller in the bank that counts money. Remember, okay, you people were too young, but when we were growing up, tellers actually used to be counting money like this, right? And there's dignity in labor, right? They leave their homes 5 a.m. in the morning to go to bank and be counting money like this. Now, can a machine do that better than a human? True or false? No, maybe I didn't ask properly. Can a machine count money better than a human? So why should a human be counting money? So the human could have decided, no, leave me, my calling in life is to be counting money. But the day the human decides that, you know what, I'm going to leave that function to the machine, it releases that human to greater potential, true or false. That human can now begin to do higher value work, like financial advice, right? Rather than, that's what I came here to talk to you about. That you can leave the grunt work for the machine to do while you bring higher value, right, to the legal work. And it matters nothing whether you are first year or 10 years or 20 years. I have gone ahead of myself. Document review is the same thing. In a due diligence exercise, one of the things that I will tell you is that these documents can be like, there are mountains of documents, depending on the deal. And you can sit in a room for months, or well, it could be a digital room too, data rooms, and you are reviewing and you are reviewing and you are reviewing and you get tired. Truth is, you can even miss some things, right? But how many of you know that the AI does not get tired? The AI does not sleep. Now, you can say, for instance, in a due diligence exercise, you can ask the model to go through a set of contracts, extract key information. For example, you may be specifically looking for certain things: termination rights, change of control clauses, assignment restriction, caps on liability. And then it can flag any of those clauses that deviate from standard clauses, right? And flag them for you. So what you have done is, rather than spend 3 months reading mountains, the AI scans the mountains and sifts out the things that you need to exercise your own judgment on. Are we together? Right? And so you don't have to, okay, let me stop saying that they don't have to for now. I've spoken about 2 things. I've spoken about drafting contracts. I've spoken about document review. Let me talk about compliance, risk management, regulatory monitoring. In environments such as Oando, for instance, many of the things that in-house counsel will do is you're observing the regulatory space, and these regulations change. Circulars come from your regulators. Laws change. Things are happening in real time, and you need to be abreast of all of this. I'm not talking about the future, right? There are tools today that can scan the entire corpus, the regulatory space, and you have a dashboard that tells you, oh, this has changed. Oh, this government has issued this circular. Oh, this thing has happened in this space. And you are reading everything in real time. And then you are looking at it. So what you are not doing is spending 12 hours, 24 hours, scanning government websites, checking. You are receiving all of that on the dashboard. And then it frees you up to do the most important things, which is, so all of these regulatory changes, what does it mean for the industry that I'm working in? And what memo do I send to the MD to say, this is the implication of this change to us, right? Now, you will do that same thing, but it could take you 2 weeks, or it could take you 2 hours. The choice is really yours. I mean, I know that some people like work, right? But we came here to talk about working smarter, not harder. The same thing goes for litigation support. Litigation work. For anyone, or arbitration, for anyone who's been involved in that space, you know it is mountains and mountains and mountains. I'll tell you one. We were briefed very late, and it was extremely sensitive. It was a technology contract. It was multi-jurisdiction, and we were acting for the government of Nigeria. And we had to respond in 24 hours. They came to the right person. I was just smiling. I said, send everything, send everything. Send everything. You see, I got the opinion ready in exactly 3 hours. It's unbelievable. You can't do it, right? And then I even waited. I went to sleep. Like, if I send this thing now, they will say, are you sure this person really did this work? I went to sleep. I woke up, right? I now sent the opinion. That's the answer for the person who was asking about work-life balance. Right? I took my daughters to school and came back before I sent, right? That's how you get work-life balance. Knowing the tools to use, knowing how to use the tools. And later on, I'm going to talk about, you're not hiding to use the tools, so. All right? Because I think that that's one of the things that the current culture seems to push. Like, don't let them know. No. Do you hide to use your calculator? If I ask you 5 times, 10 times, 12 times, 13 times, 15, give me the answer now. You are smart now. Give me the answer. You will use your calculator. The important thing is, how do you know what tools to use? All right, let me. I know that I don't have the time to say everything I want to say, but productivity is what AI is good at. Judgment is what the human is good at, right? And I'm going to break down that word judgment. We hear it a lot. Everything I've said so far is on the left. The AI does this better than any of us in this room. In fact, all of us combined. It can read, it can classify, it can summarize high volume of text. It can generate first drafts, clauses, checklists, spot patterns, anomalies, perform repetitive tasks. But what can it not do? Deep legal judgment and strategic choice. That means the fact that something can be done, does it mean it should be done? You see, that is a judgment call. That is a call that requires you to bring your lived experiences to bear. The fact that the gentleman, your client, is before you and is saying, sue my estranged wife and make life horrible for her and all, and you are looking and saying, how about the children? That's a judgment call. The AI is going to be telling you, these are the laws, these are the steps to take. Are we together? Now, that judgment call is the difference between intelligence and wisdom. How many of you know very intelligent people? Yeah, here. But do you know that intelligence is not the same thing as being wise? The intelligent person can come into this room. I want everyone to see me and know me and churn out facts. And that's what the AI does and can do it well. But the wise person knows, yes, I know this thing, but I don't have to say it. That's wisdom. So that is the humanity you bring to a world that is so intelligent. You heard the MD say that the cost of intelligence has... it's a race to the bottom. It has dropped. It is the wise ones that will stand out. Ethical reasoning. AI has no guardrails, has no boundaries, knows nothing about what is right or not right. That's where the human comes in. Persuasion in court. You've heard about everything lawyers do earlier on, negotiation. The AI cannot read the room. The AI cannot look at the judge and understand that this judge is not following me. Right? The AI does not know that, I have lost my audience. Right? That is bringing humanity to a world that is intelligence-driven. Understanding context. I can look in the client's eye and see fear. Even though the person is telling me about facts and data and all, I can see that human emotion. And I know to do the right thing. Right? So what I've said in the long and short is that the world we live in today with these tools is not the human versus the AI. It is the AI plus the human, or vice versa. The human alone, I'm afraid, cannot compete against the one human plus AI tag team. That's the honest truth. Anyone who thinks otherwise is actually, being delusional. Anyways, I want to do a little bit of practical further. All right. So let me give you I don't know whether I have. Next slide. I don't know whether I put the entire clause in here. But remember when I mentioned the joint venture, right? Okay, I don't think I put the whole clause here, but I put a version of the clause in there. The longer part, I would read it. It says, prepare a first draft of a joint venture shareholder agreement between X and Y for an upstream gas project in Nigeria with a 60-40 equity split, board of 5 directors, list of reserved matters, including approval of budget, major capital expenditure, related party transactions, Nigerian law as governing law, international arbitration seated in London, provisions that comply with local content legislation and environmental regulations and standard confidentiality and non-competition provision. Someone will be asking me, how did I come up with that clause? It's everything you heard Stella and Aderele say. You know that I could have gone to an AI tool and say, draft me a joint venture agreement. Yeah? And left it like that. But is that different from what I read out? How did I know to give all of those parameters? It's because I am grounded. I know exactly what I want, right? I could say, draft me a data protection clause. Or I could say, draft me a data protection clause that is compliant with the Nigeria Data Protection Act, with the GDPR, right? And I could put nuances there. That is the difference between the rookie and the 21st century lawyer that will stand out. The way I know to draft my prompts is what we call the T-shaped lawyer. The lawyer who is grounded in knowledge and then who understands the technology. So when I draft this still, the AI produces the draft, right? Should I send it out? No. I read it line by line, clause by clause, right? I adjust whatever needs to be adjusted. I tighten it, right? How many of you have heard of AI slop? Thank you. AI slop is the thing we read everywhere. You see it on LinkedIn. People don't even comment with their own words anymore, right? Everything is now AI generated. And it's annoying. Or is it only me? I'm sure you know now when you see something written by AI, true or false. Tell me the words you see there. Unwavering. Tell me more. Delve. People stop using delve after a while. Tell me more. It's not exactly, so that's a semantic. It will say it's not just about this, it's about this. Once you hear that, you know, right? Or what else? Structure. The M dashes. That one is annoying, right? What else? Sorry? Correct, right. So, and I'm happy you are giving me this feedback, right? That's what happens when people mindlessly over-rely on that AI churned out. Now, I'm going to say, there's many things more to say, but let me start to round it up so I can take questions. I'm now going to use the AIs you are familiar with, even though one of the things I would emphasize as I land is when it's legal work, you have to be extremely careful. But it's only for illustration purposes that I would use this example. You've heard people who say, oh, the AI, I asked the AI and it gave me a wrong answer. You've heard that, right? How many of you use Meta AI? Meta AI, the one on WhatsApp, yeah. All right, you're already shaking your head. That Meta AI is kindergarten AI. It's AI that is still in nursery school. All right? So if your experience of the power of AI capabilities, Meta AI, you are wrong. Remember I started to mention all the GPTs, right? GPT-5 is where we are. We're actually at 5.1. I hear 5.2 is upon us, right? These things are not just words. These things means that their context window is heavy. It means that they can process data and understand the context in lightning speed, right? So anything GPT-5 can actually do legal work. Quote me anyway. But I will speak to whether you should use it or not. Remember, I keep putting my cautionary words. But GPT-5. Now, Gemini. You know Gemini? You heard that Gemini moved from 2.5 to what? To 3. That 3, all of 2 weeks ago, was the greatest thing that happened in the AI landscape. Until what happened? Claude. Do you know Claude? Anthropic's Claude. Released what? 4.5. Right? Now, I'm not just calling words. What I'm saying is that the higher those numbers go, remember I said Meta AI is kindergarten AI. GPT-5 is PhD level AI. How many of us have PhDs here? That means I'm serious. It means that model is smarter than you. Are we together? Now, when Gemini 3 came out, OpenAI, the folks behind ChatGPT, what did they declare? Code red. You guys need to be aware. Code red means we are in trouble because Gemini is taking. Let me break it down. Gemini, Claude, GPT-5 can churn out an app in 5 minutes. Yes, a working app. Let me bring it home. Remember I talked to you about dashboards, right? I want you, this is your assignment, all of you. When you go home, use the same ChatGPT you have been using. Call up any regulatory issue you want to solve, right? And ask that ChatGPT to write the code to develop an app for you. For instance, give me an app that can scan Nigeria's regulatory interface and give me the latest updates in the energy space every Monday morning. Remember, I'm just using natural language, right? I promise you, Claude, GPT-5, Gemini will churn out that app for you, give you an interface. If you want, you can sell it. That's where we are today. And I'm specifically using examples that speak to us in the legal space. Now, guess what? Our clients know all these things, right? That means before our clients come to us, they have consulted the apps. So ask yourself, why would your client come to you? It's food for thought, right? The answer still is in the work smarter, okay? Give me the next slide and then I'll land this. Or maybe not the next slide. All of these are examples. I believe you get the slides. Yes. Okay, back one. Thank you. These are the reasons why we have to be careful. We have a duty of confidentiality as lawyers, right? Data security is a serious issue. Cybersecurity, we could call it that. So, you cannot put client data, sensitive data, in an open platform like GPT. Even though I've said everything I have said, and you know that I can do all of this work, you just cannot. Because you have rules guiding your work. So what do? At the very basic, if it's an organization, you must subscribe to an enterprise version of the tools. What the enterprise version does is it gives you controls, e.g., privacy controls, where you can toggle off any way, means, shape, or form where the large language model can ingest your data or compromise your data. If you are a solo lawyer, at the very least, you use the paid version of ChatGPT. And Gemini and all the rest have their paid version. Pay $20 a month, and you can toggle off you can toggle privacy mode, right? And then, but even at that, you still have to be careful. So maybe the best way, right, is, how many of you heard of DeepSeek? All right. What was special about DeepSeek? Open source, right? And they put they had their weights out there open. Not only that, it was in a zip file format, right? I'm talking too much technicalese. What it means is that you can use those open weights and build your own ChatGPT inside your office. All right? And that way you never have to worry about what cloud your data is sitting or who is having access to my documents. Right. Now, I'm sure the first thing that comes to mind is, but DeepSeek is from China now, and state control and all that. That's not what I mean. I don't mean you use DeepSeek. I mean you use the infrastructure behind DeepSeek, and you build your own chat GPT. Then you train the chat GPT, I'm just using it as a generic word, on all of the work you have ever done in your firm. You're unbeatable. Hallucination and fabricated cases. We all heard that one, right? And that's the first thing people will say. Is it not that thing that I used to lie? Even the best models hallucinate by design. It's by design. You see, the creativity that you see in a chat GPT is because the statistical computations is such that it needs to be able to compute, add many things together, and that's where its innovation comes from. I don't know what will happen in a year from today. If that is dealt with, and the hallucination is completely dealt with, maybe the AI will no longer be creative. But the rate of hallucination drops. It used to be about 70%. Now it's about 15%. And it's going to keep dropping. But what's the good thing? The good thing is, as a senior lawyer, if I ever ask the junior, or maybe I'm standing before the court or the arbitrator, right? And I say, and the court says, Mr. Ogunyemi, this case that you cited, where did you get it from? I'm not sure that this exists. And then I say, I'm sorry, sir. It was my junior that got the case. What do you think the judge will say to me? Say, I'm completely responsible. It's the same way you treat an AI. Even though I just said it's at master's level or PhD level, you treat it as, I need to verify every last output. Every what? Last output. And you don't sign off on anything unless you have applied your judgment and your oversight. Bias and fairness in training. That's one is going to remain with us forever. Bias is I was going to use the most obvious example. If you typed into Google, that's the example we use everywhere. The most beautiful woman in the world, or women in the world. What do you think Google is going to give you? 5 minutes here. What do you think Google will give you? It will give you white women, right? Why? That's what it's been trained to see over the years, right? So bias is something that we have to be mindful of. The duty of competence in some bars, like in the American bar, duty of competence now extends to your ability to use technology tools like AI tools. And so you cannot, hold yourself as a competent lawyer if you don't have knowledge of these tools. Please move to, I think it's my penultimate slide. Next slide, that's going to be my next one. Okay, so I just wanted to say here that the Nigerian NDPA, specifically Section 37, says something about not mindlessly automating tax, right? Maybe later on I would unpack it, but essentially you have to be mindful as lawyers of Section 37 of the Nigeria Data Protection Act. Maybe you should write it down. Next slide. All right, so this is where I want to end it. This is a simple framework for responsible AI adoption. Policy is the first one. Everywhere, organization, regardless, you must have guidelines, governance, what tools are permitted, and based on everything I have said, right? So that people are not sneaking off to use whatever tools. You actually have guardrails and you spell out what is permissible and what is not. Then you train the people. That's what is happening here today. The process is key. human in the loop, review. That's everything I had spoken about and emphasized. Then the platform itself. I had also mentioned it. Enterprise grade, if you're in a firm environment. Now, as students, let me quickly say this because this is not on my slide. I know that all of you use ChatGPT, but maybe let me just ask the question. How many of you know that under ChatGPT you have something called study and learn? Let me see your hands. All right, so in that your ChatGPT window, there's a toggle, that plus button, right? You can check it now. If you go down, it says study and learn. I want you to promise me that that's what you'll be using going forward. So what that does is, it does not give you the answers mindlessly, right? It actually guides you to the answer. And that way you are building the capacity Stella and Adirele spoke about. Now, this is it. AI is going to make you more of what you already are. If you are a researcher, it's going to help you research more. If you are the person that looks for shortcuts, it's going to help you find shortcuts. All right? So please, let's ensure that we are being extremely, extremely careful in terms of our deployment. For you, the young lawyer, my words to you are simple. Avoid overdependency on AI. AI is not your brain. Yes, my next slide. And preparing for the future. I've said that first one, combine deep law with broad tech awareness, learn basic data literacy, join tech communities. Before I say the last one, build your fluency in AI. Already, McKinsey has told us that first-year graduates are starting to look for work and are not finding work. But the same employers, when they put out their job descriptions, one thing that is never missing there is AI fluency. So what that means is if every first-year or graduate-level jobs disappear, so long as you are fluent in AI, right, you will always have a job. Where do you start from? Andrew Ng, one of the best minds, has this course on Coursera. Write it down. AI for everyone. Andrew Ng. Ng is NG. Then he has a follow-up course, Generative AI for Everyone. It's on Coursera and it's absolutely free. I think that that's where you want to start from, right? Then for those of you who are probably more tech-leaning than lawyer-leaning, new jobs will begin to open up. Legal technologies for one. AI Governance Council. With all the developments in AI today, the one thing that continues to give people sleepless nights is the governance of AI. And if you are the lawyer who understands the technology, that's a major space for you to play in. People are scared. And they are making allusions to nuclear weapon. Like, this thing is going to clean us out, right? But remember, with the mutually assured destruction pact, at least the world got a safe landing when nuclear bombs were concerned. The world needs the lawyers today that understand the tech, that understand the law, to ensure that we do not self-destruct with these tools. Remember, I didn't go into the cybersecurity part of it, but I need to end now. See AI as a partner, see it as an augmentation and an extension to you. Do not think it will be a substitute for you, and lawyers will not be obsolete. Let me scratch that. I mean lawyers who know how to use the tech. The ones that don't know are on a long. Thank you very much.
In fact, another round of applause, please. That was so beautiful. So beautifully done. So, very quickly, we're going to go into the question session. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
So, in recent times, there has been this demonization of AI, of the use of AI. We've seen people's artwork being discarded because they are presumed to be AI generated. So, in fact, someone said recently in a tweet that one way to evade the what's it called, your work from being discarded is to weaponize, weaponize incompetence. That is, insert some errors in your work so that they can think is human artwork. So, what are the measures in place to curtail or reduce the demonization of AI, so people can use AI safely and their works will not be thrown out? And those that do not even use AI at all, their works will not be attributed to AI.
Thank you very much. Fantastic question. And I will use an example to answer the question. So you needed to write an article, and maybe it's your term paper or something, right? You could go into your typical AI window and say, write this article for me, yeah? But that's intellectually dishonest. We all agree. Or you can use a reasoning tool. I didn't mention it, but you know there's something called deep research, right? What does deep research do differently? Deep research gives you the citation to practically every statement being made, right? Now, when you have a first draft, say you use deep research, your job is to ensure that you read every last source that is being cited, right? I promise you, when you do that, you are going to rewrite the statement that the AI wrote for you. Remember I said AI makes you more of what you already are. When you read every citation, the AI cites a source, you click on that source, you go read it. You are going to come back and rewrite the statement the AI wrote. And then at the end of the day, that document is your own. And you can own it and beat your chest. I wrote this document. At the very least, you can write at the base, AI assisted, right? Because the first draft was John. What I'm saying is, so long as you put in the work, the real work, and you own the output, you can stand tall anywhere and say, at the worst, it was between me and an AI that did this work. In 2030, we are not going to be having this conversation. I'm serious. All right. So yes, there's going to be need for a cultural shift where the world will have to come to terms with what is upon us. But what we must not do, and that's where we were jokingly talking about just regurgitating. That's what people are really mad about. Right? When we just regurgitate what the AI has written and pass it off as if it is ours. Right? I think that that's what is perpetuating this negative stereotype. But if we do the work, my first draft for these slides was AI assisted, right? But do you think anybody could have done my slides without having the breadth of knowledge that I have? No. And I'm not ashamed to say this was AI assisted. I could have gone further. How many of you know nano bananas? You don't. You know. Thank you. You would have been seeing graphics and slides if I had time, right? And all I would have done was to feed my research paper. That's the Gemini image model. It would have been giving you slides. You see all those things you saw on Stella's slides and Derile's slides. Think me too, I don't know how to do pictures. You would have been seeing slides and all of that, right? And I would have told you that this was assisted by nano bananas. I don't need to hide, right? I don't know if that answers your question.
All right. So, second question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Yeah, I have two questions. So the first question here is, as an aspiring young lawyer interested in offering legal services online rather than working with physical clients, basically working on platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, and the likes. So what are the extra requirements or steps do I need beyond being called to Nigerian bar to legally and professionally work as a freelance tech-enabled lawyer? So that's the first question. So the second question is, you mentioned the fact that, of course, we know that anything that deals with AI is garbage in, garbage out. So if I want to leverage on AI for legal services, is there any structure to me giving AI a good prompt when it comes to how do I couch a good prompt for, to AI to get something quality from it? So I don't know if you understand my question.
I got you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Fantastic question. I'll do them very quickly. You see, for the Fiverr and Upwork, for those who don't know, these are platforms where you kind of list yourself, or you are listed as an independent contractor of sorts, and jobs can come in from anywhere. And so I'm not sure it's exactly relevant for lawyers, because a lawyer should not go list himself on Fiverr. I mean, at the end of the day, the most important thing you sell as a lawyer is trust, right? That's at the core of it. And trust is around relationships, right? So I'm trying to answer your question, giving you a better approach, right? Yes, you can go on social media. Yes, you can go on all of these platforms. But everything Stella and Adirele said about networking, about human interaction, is never going to go away when it comes to the work we do as lawyers. So yes, you can have clients virtually, engage with them and all, right? But I tell you, at the end of the day, that humanity you bring to those interactions is what makes the difference. We are a tech law firm. We have partners scattered around the world, Canada, Ireland. In fact, I have at least 2 staffs that I have never seen, right? Been with us for like 3 years. So I know what you mean. We are distributed. We work from everywhere and anywhere. But we do not in any way kid ourselves that clients value trust. They value reputation, right? They value the fact that someone can point to you and say, that's the go-to lawyer, right? Please, don't ever lose that. And I don't think that is going away, right? Ever, right? Your second question, just give me one word and I'll remember. Prompt, yes. So there are courses on, it's called prompt engineering, right? So there are a few things. I can't go over all of them, but the first thing is context. Remember when I read the JV prompt, the NDA, I kind of gave a context to say this is what is happening, right? Then the second thing is a persona. That's, you ask the AI to take a role, right? Act like a hotshot lawyer from Alukano Yubode. Act like the best lawyer in, and I'm not joking, no. You're actually going to give it a persona, right? So that the AI already knows that, all right, I want to take the posture of the best mind in this space. Then style, right? So you also give style language, either concise, comprehensive, make it short, or I want a 6,000 word essay, right? So I think those are the guardrails. Then lastly is your depth. That's your nuances. So when you say things like, according to the Nigerian Data Protection Act, according to the PIA, right? Compare it with this. So that's the structure. And the structure works in any legal context, right? Context, persona, style, nuances. There are more, but those ones, you'll be good. Let me now give you the cheat sheet. And they didn't pay me $10,000. Let me give you the cheat sheet. This one never fails. Don't rush. Go into the best model and say, give me a prompt, right, to do X, Y, or Z. Your mind will be blown. Then you copy that prompt, right? And then you go and use the prompt. Have you thought of that? Actually, but I would not have given you that cheat sheet if I didn't tell you the framework, because that's what I do, right? Don't just show people. Let them see the process. Now, when you now use that cheat sheet, you will see that it's this framework that the AI would give to you as a prompt. Does that answer your question?
Okay,
right.
so we have one question here.
Okay, good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
This is more like a consign. Under the AI genetic script, is there a possibility of the AI becoming a corporate person?
Fantastic question, and I'll answer it. How many of you know Sam Altman? Co-founder, OpenAI. Anything he says about AI, we take it seriously. About a year ago, he said this: AI journey has 5 levels. And I'm answering your question, sir. Level 1 is chatbot. That's what all of us have been talking about since morning. Level 2 is reasoners. Okay, we talked about that one small. Level 3, that's where we are in 2025, are agents, the AI that can go do stuff and come back. Level 4 are innovators. These are the AI, let me just, for want of a better word, and I want you to research this thing I've said, so you go read it up yourself. Innovators, these are the AI that's going to cure cancer. It's called innovators for a reason. These AI are going to come up with new body of knowledge that the world has never seen before, for real. Maybe 2026 is the year, who knows? Then level 5 is organizations. That's the answer to your question. I don't need to say more, but essentially, where it is going is that the AIs will actually come together and begin to do stuff. Let's not even go there. But research it. Sam Altman, the 5 levels of the AI journey.
Okay, last question because of time. Last question.
Okay. So I have an observation and a question. I observed that most AI jobs related, they pay way lower than normal jobs. And then my question is, how do you convince a client to use AI or to accept something that you did with AI or an idea you brought to them?
You had the second part to the question. Okay, so the answer again is the simple thing. Bring the thing that is most valuable about yourself to that job, to that task, right? If someone says, do this task on my behalf, honestly, the person could have done it himself or herself by using an AI tool, true or false, right? But there's a reason why the person is asking you to do that job. That is, bring your experience, bring your lived experience, bring everything you have learned about humans, about this job, in and out of context, bring it to bear. In short, bring value. Right? So this is not about, it was done by AI or done by human or a human. The real question is, did you bring value? Did you solve the problem? Did you anticipate other problems and you solved it? At the end of the day, and actually that the answer to your question speaks to a larger issue. Maybe not so much in Nigeria, but the big law firms will have to deal with this, where we bill by the hour, right? And so everything I've said now, what would have taken you 2 weeks, you get it done in 2 hours. Then what happened to your billable hours model? Frankly, that model is going to be disrupted. We have to move to value-based. That is, I solved the problem. Whether I solved it in 2 minutes or I solved it in 3 weeks, does not matter. And you still bill what you bill. The way I jokingly say it is this. If you bring a job to us and you go check the AI and you say, but I have done the research and this is it and this is it, no problem. I will validate it, right? Because that's the value I'm bringing. I know it in and out. You are not, the reason why you are bringing it to me is because you are not sure, right? So I still bill you the exact same thing if I had done it from scratch. And I'll use that extra hour to go play with my children, right? So focus on value, not so much about what tool did I use or how much time. Later, the world will catch on. You get what I'm saying? Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for our speaker. That was a great presentation. Thank you very much, sir.